Market's down a little bit, 4% almost on the SPY, about a 3 sigma move here, maybe 4 sigma move. Some moves big, some moves a little more subdued. Definitely an eye-opening day. Could see a good rally here. You know, capitulation tends to bring that about. You know, the sky is not falling as much as most of you guys, if you've been following me, are short. This is a big payday. You know, the sky's not falling. So just keep in mind. Yeah, Trump coin's under 10, in fact under 9. First time ever. Yeah, I wouldn't get too nervous about the tariffs. You know, I don't think that's really the action. You know, as I said on that space last night, Twitter space, probably, you know, the tariffs are the kind of match that lights the fire, but the dry wood was more of or the tinderbox is more related to valuation, I think. You know, could be a good spot to buy a few of your favorite stocks. NVIDIA almost below 100. Some stocks are not going to be for sale, right? I mean, defensive stocks, some biopharma, for example, may even be up today. So keep that in mind. We'll see what happens. You know, I don't know if equities are priced for recession or not, because ultimately, what is a recession? A few years of below market GDP growth. You know, you have to value that. I mean, you know, I agree. I mean, just everything's overpriced. So the question becomes, what do you do about it? I think, you know, you have to wait and see a little bit. You know, markets do anticipate. That's the whole point of a market. But at the same time, I think the actual impact of tariffs is probably not going to be that significant. I really don't think the market's panicking about tariffs. It's oftentimes you need an excuse for a big market regime change or paradigm shift. And one of the things that, you know, was one of my favorite ideas generally was, you know, the famous chess saying that the threat is worse than the execution. And, you know, threat can paralyze you. Whereas once the threat is realized, it's sort of not that big of a deal. You accommodate it and adjust to it. You know, I don't think you're going to have this big, deep, pronounced sell-off that, you know, is persistent, even though I've been calling for it, you know, for 3-4 months, trying to urge caution. You know, it's today. Don't take today's single day significance that seriously. It's the same day as every other day. Just find the stocks you like and buy them, and find the stocks you don't like and short them. Now, if you're a macro trader or something, that's a different story. You're trading rates and currencies and things like that. But, you know, over here, at least, my specialty is trading stocks. And, you know, a lot of these stocks, you know, tariffs don't matter that much. Economic conditions do matter for everyone. You know, again, it remains to be seen how the tariffs will actually be implemented and executed, and for how long they'll be done. You know, I think Trump's biggest plan here is to have these guys come to the table, renegotiate, strengthen America. And, you know, I wouldn't assume that, you know, it's all over today. Invested in any altcoins? No, I like to short altcoins. Short AVXL, short CAPR, short Huma, short INMB, short IonQ, short MicroStrategy, long PHAR, short QBTS, short QUBT, short Rigetti, short RXRX, long Sarepta, long Tarsus, TARS. There's the account value in the upper right here. What are we going to do? What is society going to do as the number of breadwinners grows and the number of dependents grows? Number of breadwinners shrinks and the number of dependents grows. Content creation, UBI, hedonism, just a life of just a weird life. It's going to be interesting. IonQ is going to basically drop. I think IonQ is going to drop like 75% this year. It's a fake. It's mostly a fake company. You know, they did this acquisition they did 2 acquisitions to try to make their numbers look better than they are. That ends really poorly. So we'll see what happens. I'm tempted to buy NVIDIA. Be a bubble baggy, a GPU baggy. Yeah, I don't follow apparel that much, but I didn't like Nike last I looked at it. Yeah, Aqua Rocket, I think most jobs will become obsolete. And truly large earners will be rarer and rarer. And they'll probably make more and more money. I don't think we're gonna actually go through the tariffs. Last time Trump did this, it didn't really matter. Do you guys remember? Everybody made a big deal of it. It was such a big deal at the time, tariffs, and nothing happened. You know, this was widely expected. When news is widely expected, it shouldn't move the market much. Now, stocks are still overvalued. So it's kind of like, you know, some of that will get corrected. And then when there's a recovery, the stocks that were overvalued they don't recover as much. And the stocks that were normally valued, they'll recover. So it's just the market's way of shaking out, you know, prices. Yeah, I didn't see the green update bar. But yeah, there's a new feature in 𝐷𝗏. Let's take a look. You go to terminal by pressing backtick. And you type so terminal is this guy. Then you type HMSHS. Let me see. Actually, probably have to refresh. There we go. New update. HMS. So let's look at this. How does it work? Well, basically, you can just compare stocks. So here's NVIDIA. If I wanted to compare it to AMD, there's AMD, Intel. So over the course of a year, AMD and Intel are down 40%, whereas NVIDIA is up 20%. Let's add Micron. Okay, Micron's down a little bit. Analog Devices has been the number 2 performer out of those 5. Texas Instruments, almost exactly overlapping with Analog Devices. Look at that. That's wild. You know, unless I want to remove Micron because they don't really match here. Fine. What else? Let's say I want to add Microchip. So you can also change this to, say, 5 years. There's NVIDIA. Outperformed a bit. Let's see, Gap. Well, let's Nike. Isn't Gap GPS? No, it's Gap now? Is it Gap? Did they change the ticker? Lulu. There's all the apparel stocks for the last 5 years. I could put Farcoin in here. Let me put Ethereum in here. Okay, most active. Here, 8 minutes to the open. NVIDIA, Lucid, Robinhood, 3 most active, all down. Robinhood's down 11%. Momentum has been a factor there. Tesla, Apple, Nike down 14% on 4 million shares. Pfizer, most active but flat, down 80 bips. Intel, Palantir, Amazon, D-Wave, all down. Normally you see a little bit more volume at this point, so we'll see what happens if the big mutual funds panic or they want to buy the dip. You know, we will have to see. The battlefield is about to open, but you know, the pre-market is sometimes a little bit less than clear. You know, the big mutual funds and so forth can decide to get out now, but you know, they sort of start their work at 9:30. I don't think liquidity is going to matter for most people. To me, volume is disagreement. That's the only philosophical way I think about volume. I think there's too much liquidity, to be honest. You know, for me, I'm interested mostly in my shorts, but you know, they're actually not performing that great. You know, they're only down 1 sigma or so, whereas like something like NVIDIA is down. You know, everything's sort of down like 1.5 sigma, although the S&P seems to be down worse. So it depends on the stock, I guess. The stocks I care about aren't. It's going to take actual job losses for the retail investor to stop funding the stock market. And we'll probably see that later this year, but right now we're sort of not there. Maybe I'll buy a little NVIDIA. I asked you guys what kind of account to make, and you said I give you 4 options, and you chose $30,000. So we put $30,000 in this account. And I asked you if you want to see an aggressive investor or a degenerate YOLO investor or a patient investor, and you said something in the middle. So I'm going to give you that. Trade this account the best I know how to watch it go up. So let's see how NVIDIA, oh yeah, I have that stupid, for pre-market, I have to adjust the order, but we'll put in the order anyway. It'll be fine. Probably a bad idea, but I just have a lot of shorts and I want to buy something. This is a 1% position. I don't think about it in amounts. It doesn't matter to me if the account's 30,000 or 30 million. I mean, I'll probably be out of it later today, so I'm not trying to marry it. Yeah, we bought NVIDIA 103.58. Yeah, market rallying a little bit off the lows here, so no obvious panic. Remember, most of these funds are not trading a ton pre-market, so I think the fact that the the fast money that does trade pre-market and trades futures kind of panicked, but the Fidelities and so forth of the world are not dumping as far as we can tell. I don't know if they're buying, but we'll have to wait and see. And again, I would want to rent these stocks, not own them forever. Again, Verizon, one of the few stocks that I liked the other day, was up 2%. It's a very defensive safety stock. Okay, so big rally backwards here, including in some of the very high beta names. Haven't looked at Philip Morris in a while. PayPal's got some issues. Okay, market's sinking back down a little bit here, down 3%. I don't think anything changes nearly as much as you guys are saying. You guys are overthinking this. The market, last year the market was up 30%, and the year before that it was up 30%. Any excuse to have a big down day will be taken as an excuse to do that. Like, tariffs are irrelevant practically. It's just the condition of the market that is resulting in this, not anything else. There's plenty of things to be bullish about. There's plenty of good things happening. It's just prices have gone up too much. You can't have 2 years of 30% price growth without 2 years of 30% earnings growth. Yeah, I just wouldn't overthink it. What have we been saying for months here? We're looking at some of these stocks, and why would you pay 60 times earnings for Costco? Why would you pay 40 times earnings for Walmart? Doesn't make sense. A lot of people criticize Palantir's valuation. So, what's cheap? If nothing's cheap, that means all the stocks have to drop. Yeah, BABA, with its Chinese discount could be a good buy. I like that. There's no obvious great win. I like Google too. Yeah, Google's a good one. Yeah, I don't mind owning some of these really high quality stocks right now because, I'm short a lot of stuff, so I got to buy something. Market now taking a turn for the worst, down 3.3%, starting to get back to those lows. All right, looking at Apple, last quarter, 4% revenue growth. Quarter before that, 6. Quarter before that, 5. Story of Apple is the same. Services growth and hardware flat, leading to earnings growth. But earnings growth's still been a little spotty for Apple. Not fantastic. Yeah, Apple far from cheap. You're talking about trailing 12 months, sort of 30 times-ish for Apple without growth. That's a rough one. I would use 𝐲𝐻terminal.com, Jonathan. You could do Apple FA, and here's all the financial data right off the bat, so you don't have to copy it like I do. Yeah, you can export to CSV. You can actually export to JSON, also known as JSON, JavaScript object notation for any of you home gamers. Anybody about that Terry Davis life. Godel DL software employee wrote a book on Temple OS. How based is that? Check it out. The one and only book on Temple OS by Austin Sierra. Yeah, so 100 billion. Yeah, we parted ways with Austin, but he is a wonderful guy that we like a whole lot. He's been successful and will continue to be successful. Other non-current, it's probably goodwill. It's probably goodwill is my thinking there, or intellectual property. It could be a lot of things. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I know they don't acquire too much, but they acquire a little bit. There's certain things they acquire that might have to get shoved in there. Another one is deferred tax assets. That's a big one for most of these companies. We get financial data from every single financial data provider. There is not one financial data provider we don't do business with. We'll do execution someday. I have some good ideas on that and how to be differentiated. Yeah, gold is somewhat useful as a barometer for sure. It tells a story. Let's look at Apple. Okay. So anyway, you can go to FA on Godel. You can even download it, write to Excel. We'll add CSV support. Some people might want CSV. Here's the latest Apple 10K. Notice I can use my mouse and my mouse alone. I'm sorry, my keyboard alone. I don't need the mouse. I'm just flying over here. Okay, I want to go back to the menu. I can click that back button, or I can press the end button and just go right back like that. I still have not used the mouse, and I'm navigating through different 10Qs and 10Ks. No mouse. Why is no mouse important? I don't have the time to take my hand off the keyboard. I got work to do. This is Wall Street. I got time to sit here and move a mouse around. Look at Mac sales. Do you see this on my screen chat? 40 billion in 2022. Do you see that? 2023, 29 billion. 2024, 30 billion. Do they have this big replacement cycle or something? That's just lousy. Now, how about iPad? 29 billion, 28 billion, 27 billion. It was a COVID boost. Okay, that kind of makes sense. I'll buy that. 41 billion for wearables, then 40, then 37. Services, of course, different story. Services have been carrying Apple. Without services, Apple 10K. Everybody should read this. Just print it out. Waste 200-300 pages. Just go for it. Just sit there and plop it in your bathroom and read it in your spare time. Or read it on a commute or something like that. Just get used to reading financial statements. You want to be a big boss? Okay. Julian Robertson used to print out a ton of 10Ks, ride to the Hamptons from New York, which is about 3 hours. He would sit and read those. Oh, I see what you mean now on this total non-current assets, but the other's not that big. Here's the part that I care about, which is cash flow. They call me Fidel Cashflow. I don't know if you guys knew that. You can call me that too, by the way. I like HIMS. Everyone hates HIMS, but I like HIMS. Okay, so here's Apple's cash flow from operations. I put it in the wrong column, actually. Cash flow from operations for the last 3 years. This is like, the important thing. A lot of times, a lot of people don't understand necessarily the difference between cash flow and net income. Net income is accounting, okay? And so the accounting rules, which I love to break, allegedly, are promulgated or advanced or put forth by the accounting bodies, which includes PCAOB, PCAOB? Yeah, PCAOB, and then also FASB. And so you have GAAP accounting. Now, GAAP accounting is great. Nothing wrong with it. But it tells a certain picture and treats certain costs a certain way, a certain revenue too. Everything has got a rule to it and how you have to look at GAAP accounting. Cash flow from operations is different. Cash flow from operations is, FASB is one group, and then PCAOB is another that represents the public, or the big four, or really all the registered accountants. But in any event, cash flow tells a slightly different story. Here, they mostly are telling the same story, but you can see the slight differences where cash flow picked up for Apple in fiscal 2024, whereas the net income did not. And, why that happens is something that we'll take a look at. But notice the Apple's remarkably not capital intensive. That's really interesting. They actually spent less on capex at a time where the Googles, the Metas, the Amazons, and the Microsofts are spending way more on capex. Apple is really not spending very much at all. And so what does free cash flow look like, which is defined as cash flow from operations minus capital expenditures? And you can see, again, it's fairly lumpy. Like, you look at this and say 111 billion, 100 billion, and 109 billion. Is that a growth company? No. I mean, that's 3 years of flat earnings. And what are you paying for 100 billion in earnings? If you said, I'm going to give you $100 billion annuity, I would say, what's that worth? Maybe $1 trillion? 1.5 trillion? At most, 2 trillion, right? Well, it's on sale for 3 trillion. Why would you buy that? And what planet does that make sense if you've taken even an intro to finance course? Let's look at another 10K. Maybe we're missing something. Here's another cash flow statement. And I guess the point is, maybe COVID had this big one-time impact, okay? Caused this big pull in demand, but I don't see that here. And so because this is fiscal 22, I'm not sure Apple's growing at all, because the services business is supposed to be really high margin, but it's not showing up in the cash flow. Where's the cash flow growth? So one way to do it is to say, okay, well, what is the rate? Rate, 3 years, negative 93 billion, positive 109. That's 5% a year cash flow, free cash flow growth. That's inflation, dude. Oh, wow. SPY taking a turn for the worse, down 3.5%, back to the lows of the day. I guess Fidelity is dumping. You know, remember, the futures traders are active during the day, asset allocators. To me, what's interesting is do the Fidelities of the world and do the retail investors decide that they want out of the market? It's hard for me to imagine. We are up 50 basis points. My girl is going to be very happy. Money out of her purse, put it in this Schwab account, and now we're up 150. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell her Schwab got hacked for the money, right? And I'm going to withdraw it. And I'm going to just tell her he got hacked. I don't know what happened. Worst case, I'll say they found it, and I give her back the 30K. And at least I got 150 that we made trading. Yeah, Huma's gone to zero. It's just not a real product. Talk to people in the space that will tell you this. Nobody wants this product. Nobody's going to use this product. Again, take it from Shkreli. I'm an expert at this, girl. Hospitals don't buy products easily. Hospitals are the cheapest in the world. They'll put you on a committee. They'll do a committee review. Because hospitals don't get paid. A third of the patients, this is how I grew up, we go to the emergency room. We don't make an appointment. We just go to the emergency room and wait like this. I got my fitted cap on. Just waiting in the emergency room. I'm sick. Eventually the doctor's like, okay, buddy, what's going on? How you doing? And I tell them the problem. They send a bill, but I don't pay the bill. That's a third of the whole hospital industry. So they're not interested in buying these expensive things because they're not going to get paid for it. Especially if you can't prove the product is valuable. See, now you're talking like a baggie. Okay, if they announce one military sale, I will get out on the pop. What pop? How many devices could the military possibly need? 5,000? 10,000? How many limbs get blown off that they need this device and not the other cheaper devices? How much does their device even cost? I would just sell it now. But you're right. I mean, they can scam the US government into procuring this useless device. And if they can scam the government to procuring this useless device every year, there'd be some value to it. I don't know how many of these they'll need. Again, I don't know how much combat the military sees where they need these grafts, because they're used pretty rarely, right? They're only for times when grafts from like the saphenous vein can't be used.